So today we're going to be talking about what our own individualized personal self-talk is and the power of giving ourselves credit. A lot of times we can be really hard on ourselves in a way that we don't even realize, that can have massive implications on how we look at life, how we view ourselves, and our relationships. Us as individuals, we can be pretty rough on ourselves. And so today's episode, I want to take some time to reflect and think about, where are we as human beings, and are we respecting, are we loving ourselves, and what is our own personal state of personal self-talk? So this is where I sometimes throw at people taking a day to kind of have an out-of-body experience, if you will, where it's like being really aware of what comes out of your mouth. When we as human beings and in our core, inside of us, if inside we are saying to ourselves like we're not worth very much, of course it's expected that we're going to screw up, I can't do this, of course that happened that way, life is this and that, all of those negatives kind of stack up and they become really heavy on our shoulders. It's us already thinking we're going to fall on our faces, us already and ready to fail or screw up or do whatever it is, insert something that you struggle with, and then it's really self-fulfilling. So this is where it's becoming aware of and taking an inventory, whether it's every few weeks, every few months, for ourselves, and saying, how am I doing with my own personal self-talk? And if there's some red flags, well, it's time to flip the cards a little bit and make some change happen. Because if we have negative thoughts and negative things coming out about ourselves, those things stick to other people that hear that about us, and then they themselves, really that seeps into them, whether they want it to or not. And there's a negative that's attached to relationships that we have where people don't value us as much. And that domino effect is massively negative. Where are you with that? When we take time to recharge, saying I'm worth it, that's a positive. I'm taking time to recharge, to breathe, whatever it is, and whatever you need to make that happen, it's doing it. So today's a new day. How are you going to either begin rocking out some positive self-talk or kick it up a notch, strengthen it? I don't think that there's ever a time that we can over the top strengthen our positive self-talk. It's not about being narcissistic or egotistical or whatever. It's just about us believing in ourselves. Start believing that you have purpose, believing that you're going to mess up in life. But if we look at just the mess up instead of all the other positive, good stuff, every single one of us is screwed up. And if nobody's perfect, it makes life interesting. I believe if we allow it to, it allows us to grow and strengthen as human beings and become more effective and impactful. But that choice is up to us. Everything's how we look at it. Every single thing in life is how we decide to perceive what is ahead of us instead of get locked in with what is behind us. When we believe in the can't, it paves the road and places obstacles in front of us, making the can very much impossible. We hold ourselves back. I can't do this. That can't happen. And what happens, there's these roadblocks and we can't even begin to fathom the can. These irrational, and that's what they are, irrational thoughts that get in your head. Working on those irrational thoughts. How do I now replace them with positive? It's catching yourself. It's that out-of-body experience and saying, oh my gosh, that came out of my mouth. That came out of my mouth. And every time that negative comes out of your mouth, replace it with a positive. And the thinking, the mindset of positivity, of what you are able to do. Very, very, very important spoke in the wheel of life, our mindset, and allowing those irrational thoughts to be replaced with rational ones. And what can kind of really help with that shift is making a list of your accomplishments. When we fixate on the negative, it brings us nowhere. It brings us nowhere. How we think of ourselves is very important, but the people we surround ourselves and how they think of us is very, very important. If we're around people who put us down, who belittle us, and maybe it's just something they're now used to because we put up with it for so long, no, you're awesome. And if somebody's saying those things, you correct them. I'd appreciate if you wouldn't speak to me like that anymore. And if you have these people in your circle, right, and they're unwilling maybe to make these changes, they're not for you. It's having those people at a distance, because our closest circle, those people that we invest our hearts and our time with, if they chip us down, it adds to the negativity. It adds to us being tired and overwhelmed and feel like we're having energy sucked out from us, because that's what's happening. You have people that wear you down. You're like, well, you know, they physically would never do anything, right? And I'm not, but the emotional component within relationships can sometimes be even more significant than the physical. Respecting yourself enough that I am not gonna allow myself to be subject of negativity, of being torn down all the time. You can't do that. It's all about building each other up instead of tearing each other down. And this is where it's finding that balance when it comes to sarcasm. I could be sarcastic sometimes, but it's keeping that balance where it's sarcasm doesn't become scarcasm, where you're actually hurting someone's feelings. Our words are just crazy, over the top important. Love yourself, respect yourself enough, and it starts right now, today, baby, of setting your rules. And today, my friends, I'm wishing you a massive, super overflowing cup of peace, love, and goodness, my friends.